Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. This theme that I've chosen to emphasize this year on the intellectual use of our critical thinking as it relates to the Scriptures. It's very important marriage, as it were, I'll put it that way, this symbiosis, the putting together of intelligent, intellectual, critical inquiry into the actual nature of the Scriptures is nowhere better exemplified than from Joseph Smith, the original founder, prophet of Mormonism, the restorer of ancient Christianity. And I'm well aware that I'm simplifying the idea, assuming that there was a singular, monolithic, Orthodox Christianity in Jesus' day, which of course is completely anachronistic. I'm well aware of the historical implications of that. For my simple illustration of using Joseph Smith as the stepping stone toward a greater appreciation of the Scriptures, I think nobody has ever put it as powerful as Terrell Givens has. He's an LDS scholar, author. I really enjoy Brother Givens' writings. He's very interesting. He has a terrific way of expressing what has occurred with the Scriptures, the prophets, the religion of the Latter-day Saints, etc. And in one of my very favorite books, the Bicentennial Conference at the Library of Congress of Joseph Smith, The Worlds of Joseph Smith is the published proceedings. Givens, in his article on Joseph Smith, Prophecy, Process, and Plenitude, really notes it well. He says, Joseph Smith was an explorer. He was a discoverer. And he was a revealer of past worlds. This is pretty all-encompassing. But I love this idea that Joseph Smith was an explorer. He never rested on his laurels and used his early revelations, utterly staggeringly magnificent as they were, as the basis and stopping there for the rest of his life, for the rest of his intellectual, spiritual, psychological, emotional development. He constantly stretched, expanded, well, as he even said, he said, enlarged his soul. That's a very interesting expression, isn't it? Enlarge your soul. How do you do that? You do that with two instruments that we've been given in this physical, mortal life. Your mind and your heart. That's how it works. You combine the two. Joseph Smith did that very powerfully. He described an ancient America replete with elaborate detail and daring specificity. He rooted and grounded in what he claimed were concrete, palpable artifacts. He recuperated texts of Adam, Abraham, Enoch, and Moses to resurrect and reconstitute a series of past patriarchal ages, not as mere shadows and types of things to come, but as dispensations of gospel fullness, equaling and in some cases surpassing our present plenitude of information. He revealed an infinite, receding premortal past. Not on the largely mythic Platonic variety, not at all. And it wasn't a mere Wordsworthian sentimental intimation that Joseph Smith revealed. He actually fully formed the realm of human intelligences, divine parents, and heavenly councils. It's a profound thing to see the pure power of the amazing reconstruction of the past. Now, whether you accept it or not is irrelevant to the fact that Joseph Smith constantly brought out new information throughout the course of his lifetime, his very busy, hectic lifetime. He never stopped. He kept stretching. Joseph Smith believed, oh, that was on page 55 and now on page 56. If you can get this book, you really should, The Worlds of Joseph Smith. It's several LDS and non-LDS scholars got together. It's published by BYU Press, 2006. Joseph believed that struggle, this idea of opposition and contestation, are not just the essence of personal probation and growth, but this also describes an intellectual dynamic that moves us ahead in our quest for understanding. It is the interplay of opposites. By proving contraries, truth is made manifest, he was known to say. And of course the idea is to prove the contraries. That means you seek out the extra knowledge. Joseph Smith never stopped doing that in his entire life. Here he had more revelation than all the rest of us put together. He had more heavenly beings and visitations from grand patriarchs and prophets and apostles from antiquity. And he still sought out the Hebrew scholars to teach him the biblical languages. And because of that intellectual striving, the end of Joseph Smith's life, he produced some of the most magnificent sermons on record. Not in spite of his intellect, but because of it. See, this is what I believe is possible for all of us. You know? This attitude of, yeah, I can learn something new every day. Yes, I can increase my understanding of the scriptures, of reality, of life. I can have better experiences than I've had even up to this point. If you've written the book, write another one. If you haven't written the book, write one. If there's a particular scripture you don't know something about, learn it. Take the time to learn it. That's the point of having time anyway, isn't it? I really think Givens hits the nail on the head with his analysis here. He says, like William Blake, Joseph Smith always put himself in an antagonistic, if not antagonistic relationship to all prior systems. Consistent with other romantic thinkers, from Malthus to Hegel to Darwin, Joseph believed that struggle, opposition, and contestation are not just the essence of personal probation and growth, but they also describe an intellectual dynamic that moves us ahead in our quest for understanding. I am like a huge rough stone rolling down from a high mountain, Joseph Smith said. And he said, and the only polishing I get is when some corner gets rubbed off by coming into contact with something else, striking with accelerated force against religious bigotry, priestcraft, the authority of perjured executives, and corrupt men and women. These words are not just a description of his character development, though. They're really not. This is a delineation of Joseph Smith's intellectual modus operandi, his method of achieving intellectual greatness. He explores the limits through challenging the boundaries of all of our knowledge in all areas. And the idea that behind this is all in the interest of productive provocation. He wants us to get out of our rut of thinking we already have the truth and learn to explore some more. Great privileges of studying the prophet's life, of studying the Book of Mormon and the other scriptures that he brought out, is his approach when he wrote a letter to his attorney, Mr. Butterfield. Listen to what Joseph says. I stated that the most prominent difference in sentiment between the Latter-day Saints and sectarians was this. The sectarians are all circumscribed by some particular creed, which deprive its members the privilege of believing anything not contained in the creed. And he's speaking from experience in discussing various things about religion with various people who were not Mormon of his day. He said the creeds limited and shackled their thinking. He says, whereas the Latter-day Saints have no creed, but are ready to believe all true principles that exist, as they are made manifest from time to time. See, this resistance to formal creeds, this idea of being opposed to a closed canon of Scripture from Joseph Smith's perspective, and to a conventional opinion, are all so many versions of a resistance to finality, to fixity, boy. Anything final, Joseph Smith said nothing doing. This is an ongoing process where we may have really superb accomplishments through the course of our life, but don't stop just because you accomplish something. Keep going. Just because you've read 1 or 2 books, don't stop there thinking, I finally arrived at true knowledge. That was not Joseph Smith's way at all. He never did that. He constantly searched for mysteries, more and more knowledge to teach the saints. He was saying that on several occasions. He would lament with the brethren when they would meet together as a quorum. And he would say, man, the minute I teach somebody something new, they fly to pieces like glass. He said it's so hard to teach people new things because they think they already have the truth. And this is the prophet Joseph Smith, who had more truth based on his heavenly interviews and information from the divine world than absolutely everybody in his day, and he constantly kept going. He kept learning. I love that about Brother Joseph. That's one of my very favorite characteristics about Joseph Smith, the Mormon prophet. We need to begin emulating that more, in my opinion. He said it's what he called circumscription. Joseph Smith says circumscription is being bound and hemmed in by orthodoxy. Joseph would have none of that. Elsewhere he declared that the first and the fundamental principle of our holy religion, Mormonism, is to be free, to embrace all and every item of truth, without limitation, or without being circumscribed or prohibited by the creeds or the superstitious notions of men, or by the denominations of one another. The power of the restored gospel is the freedom which it brought in to begin to allow us to use our intellects to increase our sphere of knowledge. And of course, the logical corollary to this, in my opinion, is this expansion will automatically expand our faith. I am a firm believer in that. This is what Joseph Smith stood for. This is why I love Brother Joseph, because he said the mind, it's co-eternal with God. Use it. It's okay. It's okay to think, people. He constantly tried people to think. Tried to get people to think. I mean, that's what made, when you think about it in church history, Orson Pratt, Parley P. Pratt, Brigham Young, this is what, Heber C. Kimball, this is what made the Brethren, George Q. Cannon, B.H. Roberts, this is what made the Brethren such intellectual powerhouses and giants, being able to expand and demonstrate the all-inclusive aspect of Mormonism seeking all truth no matter where it resides, we want it all. That was their study. That was their approach. I love that. That is fantastic. That's one of the most attractive things about the Restoration, in my opinion. To one of his friends, he lamented that he did not enjoy the right vouchsafed to every American citizen, that of free speech. He said that when he ventured to give his private opinion on any subject of importance, the problem with it is when it was repeated, his words were often garbled, and their meaning twisted, and then given out as the word of the Lord because they came from him. So there was a problem with repeating what he was trying to show and teach. His insistence that his pronouncements did not always carry prophetic weight was not just a safety net or a convenient means of prudent retreat. It meant that the process, the ongoing dynamic engagement, the exploring, the questing, the provoking dialectical encounter with the traditions of his day, with boundaries and with normative thinking, should not be stopped or impeded by the clerks and the scribes looking for a final word of things, interrupting a productive process of reflection, contestation, and creation. He wanted to have the privilege of thinking out loud and exploring, not as a means of making a final prophetic announcement, but of engaging his intellect with the astonishing creation and with other men's intellects, analyzing, dissecting, putting things together, figuring out the laws, the truths, the verities of the eternities in the Scriptures, of the humanity in the Scriptures, of seeing and understanding and recognizing the mistakes in the Scriptures, as well as the really provocative, astonishing spiritual insights that the Scriptures give us. Joseph Smith said, "I will live and die for that right for every man." And he did. He did. I love Brother Joseph for his example, his power, his incredible desire to stretch, learn, grow, develop, challenge your own assumptions, challenge other people's assumptions, figure things out. We have a dialectic dialogue going on here of discovering the truth. Now, I've had Mormons tell me, discover the truth, that's utterly silly. We already have the truth. I don't have to explore and learn. Yeah, you're one of those that's going to fly to pieces like glass, I should say, the minute something new enters your mind, because you've already closed your mind off. If you think, well, I have the truth, I don't need to learn anymore, you're stuck. Your growth is stunted and thwarted, and you'll never comprehend the vast greatness of eternities or the further revelations of God if you think right now you have the truth and you don't need to study anymore. You're exactly wrong. 100% so. You're thinking exactly the opposite of how Joseph Smith always thought and learned and practiced and studied and lived. He lived for the enlargement of more and more and more knowledge and truth. And have any of us had half the revelations Joseph Smith did? Yet he never claimed, well, I have the truth, I don't need to study anymore. Isn't that interesting? When we look to Joseph Smith as our exemplar, I can't find a better foundation with which to produce many, many hundreds of videos on the Book of Mormon for you. There have been some new information coming out, being published just within the last, year, truly, within the last couple of years, that I'm very excited to share with you. But I just wanted to tell you, in the course of these videos, I'm not going to tell you more of what you think you already know as the truth. No, I'm not going to do that. I am going to challenge your assumptions. I'm going to make you think. In fact, I might offend a few of you, because you have some precious, very personal, cherished assumptions about what the Book of Mormon is and isn't, or what the Book of Mormon means. And I'm going to challenge all of that this year. I'm going to give you something to think about, something to chew on, and something to discover and learn. And I'll always give you my sources, for sure. So, anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say right now. Joseph Smith doth a tale unfold. And one of the best parts of that tale is in that Book of Mormon. And I got lots of stuff to tell you on the Book of Mormon. So, thanks for watching my videos, and I'll see you in the next video.